The night was quiet in South Chicago, that uneasy calm that only cities after dark can hold, too still, too hollow. Harold and Evelyn Cole sat together in their modest brick home, the same house they'd owned for nearly 40 years. They were the kind of couple who made a neighborhood feel like home. Harold, the retired mechanic who still fixed kids' bikes for free, and Evelyn, the church mother who never let anyone leave hungry. They had weathered every storm together, from riots to recessions, and tonight was supposed to be like any other, but it wasn't. Two black SUVs rolled down the street, engines low, lights off. Inside sat men from the Giordano Mafia family, cold-eyed and efficient, sent to send a message to a rival who lived 3 doors down. But the street numbers were confusing, faded by age and winter. A single mistake changed everything. The men kicked down the wrong door. Within minutes, gunfire shattered the silence. The smell of blood and cordite filled the air. When the police arrived, the couple's bodies lay side by side on the living room floor, his hand still reaching for hers. No one knew that the son they'd raised, the quiet man who rarely visited, was a decorated Delta Force commander who had fought in wars most people didn't even know existed. And when Darius Cole got the call, hell itself wasn't ready for what he was about to unleash. The morning after the murders, Chicago's air felt heavier. Rain soaked the crime scene tape as detectives worked in silence. Reporters crowded the street, asking questions no one could answer. At 6:37 a.m., Darius Cole's phone rang at his Virginia home. He'd been up since dawn. Habits from the military never faded. The voice on the other end was his cousin, trembling. "Darius, they're gone." 2 words. That's all it took. The world seemed to slow. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. For a moment, he thought it was a mistake. Maybe a robbery gone wrong. Maybe bad information. But when he called the precinct and heard the detective confirm the names Harold and Evelyn Cole, the part of him that still believed in peace died instantly. By noon, he was on a flight to Chicago. When he arrived at the house, the sight of yellow tape and shattered glass broke something deep inside. The home that once smelled of cornbread and jasmine was now a tomb. Bullet holes marked the walls like cruel punctuation. "Wrong address," one officer muttered to another. Darius's jaw tightened. "Wrong address," he repeated quietly. He knew the streets. He knew how careless killers worked. But this wasn't random. This was organized, deliberate. He studied the entry wounds, the weapon patterns. Whoever did this had moved with precision, formation, control, timing, military precision, he whispered. But no, it wasn't the military, it was the Mafia, and they had no idea whose door they'd just broken down. "Then I'll find out who they were after," Darius said, standing. "You can't do that," Alvarez warned. "They'll kill you." Darius gave a small, hollow smile. "They can try." That night, Darius sat in the wreckage of his parents' home. He picked up his father's broken glasses, his mother's fallen rosary. He lit a candle, not for peace but for war. The son of Harold and Evelyn Cole had buried many enemies overseas. Chicago's underworld was a web, thick, dangerous, and nearly impossible to navigate. But Darius Cole was not an ordinary man. He had spent years in covert ops, learning to track ghosts across deserts and mountains. The Giordano family might have ruled the city's drug and arms trade, but Darius ruled silence, shadow, and death itself. He began with the streets, old contacts, old debts. One by one, he called in favors. A former CIA analyst he once saved in Afghanistan gave him access to a private database. That night, he paid a visit to the Brass Horse, a nightclub the Mafia used as a front. He walked in wearing his father's old leather jacket. Nothing tactical, nothing threatening. The bouncer didn't even stop him. Inside, neon lights flickered over mobsters drinking whiskey, laughing at the night's winnings. Darius moved like a ghost between them. When he found Tony Marcelli, one of the shooters from the Giordano crew, he didn't hesitate. He dragged Tony into the alley out back. "You were there," Darius said, voice low. "South Chicago. Wrong house." Tony spat blood and fear. "You don't know who you're messing with." Darius leaned closer. "You don't either." It took 30 seconds. Darius got the names he needed. Enzo and Luca Giordano, and the location of their safe house near the docks. When Tony tried to grab his gun, Darius snapped his wrist and vanished before anyone inside even noticed the missing man. Using suppressed weapons and tactical precision, Darius eliminated the guards silently. Inside, he found stacks of cash, crates of weapons, and photographs, including one of his parents' house circled in red. Next to it was another photo, their intended target, Darius's fists trembled. It really had been the wrong house. But the Giordano's didn't care. They laughed about it, called it collateral damage. The Giordano mansion sat on the city's edge, surrounded by gates and guards. It was supposed to be untouchable, but that was before Darius Cole decided to touch it. Midnight. He moved through the shadows with calm precision, disabling cameras, cutting power lines, and breaching the side door like he'd done in dozens of combat missions. The only difference was this time there was no flag on his shoulder, just rage in his heart. Inside, Enzo Giordano sat in his study, drinking scotch, laughing with his brother Luca about the old couple thing. Footsteps, a whisper of movement, then silence. Enzo stood, reaching for his gun. Too late. A flash of steel. Darius was there, eyes dark and voice cold. You killed them. My mother baked for the whole block. My father fixed cars for free. You killed them because you couldn't read an address. Luca tried to fire. Darius disarmed him with a single strike, breaking his arm before turning the weapon back on him. What do you want? Enzo stammered. Closure. Darius's movements were surgical, not out of vengeance, but precision. Within minutes, both brothers were incapacitated. Darius left them alive. Barely. He dialed Alvarez. You'll find them at their estate, he said flatly. Bring cuffs. By dawn, the news spread. The Giordano Empire had fallen overnight. The FBI raided their accounts, seized assets, and found proof of over a dozen crimes. But Darius didn't stay to watch. He stood alone at his parents' graves, the city skyline glowing behind him. Weeks passed. The neighborhood began to heal. The Coles' old house became a memorial. Candles, flowers, notes from neighbors. People remembered kindness, not tragedy. Detective Alvarez stopped by one evening. You disappeared, she said softly. Just tying up loose ends, Darius replied. He'd sold the house, donated the proceeds to a local youth center. My parents believed in second chances. She smiled faintly. And what about you? Darius looked out over the street, the one his parents had loved. Then he walked away, disappearing into the city's hum, another ghost among millions. But in the darkness of Chicago, word spread. The Mafia was afraid again. No one touched South Chicago anymore, not after what happened to the Coles. And somewhere, deep in that silence, justice found a home. If this story gripped you, if Darius Cole's battle for justice made your heart race, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful modern stories of courage, loss, and redemption. Every story reminds us that heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they just come home.